Hello Lunar Deers and Maiden Peers, Lauma is the new best support for Bloom-related teams, thanks to her ability to massively buff the damage that these reactions deal. She also excels as a Hydro and Dendro resistance shredder, making her flexible enough to slot into any team where the DPS is of the Hydro or Dendro elements. For builds, go with the new Silken Moon's Serenade for the most team-wide impact, but Gilded Dreams or Deepwood Memories are good substitutes until then. Use triple Elemental Mastery for her main stats and prioritize Energy Recharge and Elemental Mastery substats with a pinch of crit. The new Black Morrow Lantern is her best free-to-play weapon, but you could basically use any other Elemental Mastery 4-star Catalyst as an alternative. For upgrades, any 5-star Catalyst with high Elemental Mastery works perfectly too. Hi, I'm Aaron, and this is your Too Long Didn't Watch. If this is all the information you wanted, then I want to thank you for stopping by. But if you would like to support me, then you could take a bite out of that blueberry pierogi flavored subscribe button down below, and or keep the video playing. That is up to you. For everyone still here, let's prance right into Lauma's overview. Lauma is the Bloom support who could massively amplify the reaction to deal more damage and be more consistent in single target cases. She also has a special and very pretty charge attack where she jumps around in her deer form, but it merely serves as an exploration tool or an option to use her on field. Otherwise, it isn't an important part of her kit. Lauma's skill has both tap and hold variants. Either way, it summons a ring around the active character for 15 seconds that deals Dendro damage, scaling with Elemental Mastery and attack, applies Dendro, and reduces Hydro and Dendro resistances every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. The tap version deals 1 AoE Dendro hit on cast. The hold version deals an AoE Dendro hit on cast, then adds up to 3 AoE Lunar Bloom hits, scaling based on Elemental Mastery, 1 per Verdant Dew stack. Verdant Dew is tied to Bloom reactions that we will get more into later on, but for now, just know 1 is gained for each Bloom triggered. Lauma's burst does one thing, and it does it well. It buffs Bloom damage. On cast, she gains 18 Pale Hymn stacks, plus 6 more for each Verdant Dew stack consumed within 15 seconds before or after activation. Each Pale Hymn stack boosts Bloom reaction damage significantly, and it increases Lunar Bloom damage slightly less, both scaling with her Elemental Mastery. Every instance of Bloom damage consumes 1 Pale Hymn stack. Lauma's unique Nod Cry passive sets her apart. While she is in the party, all Bloom reactions become Lunar Bloom reactions. On top of that, Lunar Bloom's base damage is increased based on her Elemental Mastery, reaching a 14% boost at 800 Elemental Mastery. This makes her a core enabler for Bloom-centric teams. Lauma's first Ascension passive grants a 20-second team-wide buff after using her skill or burst, based on the party's current moon sign. If it is Nascent Gleam, Bloom reactions gain a 15% chance to crit, dealing 100% critical damage. If Ascendant Gleam, Lunar Bloom damage gains plus 10% crit rate and plus 20% critical damage. Lauma's Ascension 4 passive gives her powerful Elemental Mastery scaling bonuses. Every point of Elemental Mastery increases her skill damage by 0.04%, up to 32% at 800 Elemental Mastery. It also reduces the cooldown of her special charge attack by 0.02% per Elemental Mastery, capping at 20% cooldown reduction with 1000 Elemental Mastery. For talent priority, Lauma's skill and burst are the core of her kit. Her skill offers solid damage and resistance shred, while her burst massively boosts Bloom reaction damage. These should be leveled equally as both directly enhance her team impact. Her normal attacks can be skipped though, since they're rarely, if ever, used in proper play. Lauma's best combo revolves around her skill and burst, but the order depends on your team. In Bloom-heavy teams, use her hold skill first, then burst to maximize Pale Hymn buffs on Bloom damage. For teams that can't fully consume her Pale Hymn stacks, start with burst, then use her hold skill for extra damage from Pale Hymn. This is the most common playstyle. In non-Bloom teams, focus on just her tap skill for application. Now that we've gone through her base kit, let's go through her constellations and see what they bring to the table. For her first one, after using her skill or burst, Lauma gains Thread of Life for 20 seconds. During this time, when nearby teammates trigger Lunar Bloom reactions, active characters heal for 500% of Lauma's Elemental Mastery once every 2 seconds. Plus, her special charge attack costs 40% less stamina and lasts 5 seconds longer. This constellation's biggest perk, it turns Lauma into a defensive support. With this role consolidation, she could solo support most teams she fits into, freeing up a slot for another DPS. In Hyper Bloom, for example, this could mean swapping in Fischl for even more damage. While some comps, like Nilo teams with Kokomi, may not benefit as much, a real win here is versatility, which skyrockets with this constellation. For her C2, Lauma's Pale Hymn stacks multipliers are increased by 500 and 400% for Bloom damage and Lunar Bloom damage respectively. Additionally, while Ascendant Gleam is active, party members' Lunar Bloom damage is increased by 40%. Since Lauma won't usually be in Ascendant Gleam, the real value here is in the doubled Pale Hymn multipliers. This leads to not just a powerful team-wide damage increase, but an absolutely absurd one. Her C3 increases the level of her skill by 3. This will increase her resistance shred as well as her personal damage, which nets it a nice balance between personal and supportive gain. For her C4, when attacks from the Frost Grove Sanctuary summoned by her skill hit opponents, Lauma will gain 4 elemental energy. This effect can be triggered once every 5 seconds. This constellation will alleviate the need to build into more energy recharge. However, Lauma has such low energy requirements that she is able to build all the elemental mastery that she could ever hope for before this constellation. So this constellation only gives her a bit more crit stats, which don't do much for the team. Lauma's C5 increases the level of her burst by 3. This will increase the scaling of her Pale Hymn stacks, which also increases the damage of the team by quite a good amount. And lastly, we have our final constellation. When Frostgrove Sanctuary hits, it triggers an extra AoE Lunar Bloom hit, dealing 160% of Lauma's elemental mastery up to 8 times per cast. These hits don't consume Pale Hymn stacks. Instead, they grant Lauma 2 stacks and refresh their duration. Using her skill again clears all these stacks. While Lauma has Pale Hymn stacks, her normal attacks consume 1 stack to deal Lunar Bloom damage equal to 120% of her elemental mastery. Plus, with Ascendant Gleam active, all party members' Lunar Bloom damage is elevated by 25%. This turns Lauma into an off-field DPS powerhouse, outshining most main DPS damage healers with ease, while also supercharging Bloom-related teams. It fixes key kit issues too, as it offsets her loss of crit potential when under Ascendant Gleam with raw damage, and while also opening up on-field DPS potential. It offers so much that at this point, she could fill every role with just one Hydro teammate as a requirement. It's not just buff, it's a transformation, an absolutely monstrous one at that. Lauma's constellations overall are a mix, but mostly solid. Only one really falls flat, while the rest boost her personal power or team support. The highlights are her C1 that lets her fill almost any role, C2 which delivers a huge damage boost for her and the team, and C6 supercharges her sub DPS potential and fixes key weaknesses. If you're chasing constellations, these are the key milestones to aim for. But with vertical investment done, let's move on to her best artifact options. Lauma's best in slot artifact is the new Silken Moon's Serenade. The 2-piece gives her energy recharge, while the 4-piece boosts the team's elemental mastery by 60 or 120 depending on the moon sign, and increases lunar reaction damage by 10% per gleaming moon effect. The extra EM packs a serious punch, boosting all reaction damage for the team and amplifying Lauma's own damage and buffs. This set fits perfectly in every scenario, making it her go-to, no exceptions. Gilded Dreams and Deepwood Memories are solid alternatives until you get Silken Moon's Serenade. Gilded Dreams boosts her personal damage and buffs, while Deepwood adds valuable resistance shred for Dendro damage. Still, her signature set is the ultimate goal and worth farming for ASAP. For main stats, prioritize Elemental Mastery on Lauma's Sands, Goblet, and Circlet, since both her damage and buffs scale directly with Elemental Mastery. If your team leans more on her personal damage than Bloom reactions, you could swap to a crit rate Circlet instead. For substats, prioritize energy recharge first. Lauma needs plenty to keep her bursts going, aiming for 125 to 160% energy recharge depending on your team. Once ER is covered, focus on stacking Elemental Mastery with 800 EM as the bare minimum, but ideally you would want 1000 or more in combat for maximum damage and buffs. Finally, grab crit stats with a 1:2 ratio to boost her personal Lunar Bloom damage. With artifacts over with, let's move on to weapon options. Lauma's signature weapon, Nightweaver's Looking Glass, is a powerhouse. It grants nearly 385 elemental mastery and significantly boosts the whole team's Bloom and Lunar Bloom damage. It's perfect for her, but due to the harsh diminishing returns of elemental mastery, other weapons will normally do just fine in comparison to this one. Next up is 1000 Floating Dreams, thanks to its hefty elemental mastery and valuable team-wide elemental mastery buff. While the buff is just 40 extra EM, this is enough to push it above other options, because every little bit counts. Starcaller's Watch kicks off a trend for the rest of the listed catalysts. A high elemental mastery stat is king for Lauma. This weapon offers some of the highest unconditional EM in the game, making it a top-tier choice for maximizing her damage and buffing potential. Mizuki's signature is next, as it offers merely 4 less elemental mastery to Lauma than Starcaller's. As such, they are basically equal. Sacrificial Fragments ranks high not just for its solid elemental mastery, but for letting Lauma reset her skill cooldown, potentially doubling her Lunar Bloom burst damage each rotation. While not always reliable when it works, it's easily her second best catalyst. Next is the craftable Black Marrow Lantern, matching Sacrificial Fragments stats, but with a strong, consistent passive that boosts Lauma's personal Lunar Bloom damage significantly. When combined with its high EM, it's her best free-to-play and most reliable 4-star weapon. That said, crafting to R5 can be tough early on, so So these next options make great placeholders until you can get a good upgrade. First up is the 4-star Aetherlight Spindalute, boasting a solid 200 elemental mastery boost on its passive, plus hefty energy recharge to help Lauma maintain burst uptime. However, as you optimize her build, the energy recharge can become overkill, making it less efficient. But when ER is needed, it's definitely one of the better choices. Wandering Evenstar converts Lauma's massive elemental mastery stat into attack for her and the team. This slightly boosts her personal damage, but shines best by buffing attack scaling characters. It's less ideal for pure Bloom teams, but grows more valuable the less your team relies solely on Bloom reactions. Then there's Sacrificial Jade, which offers a pretty low elemental mastery stat, but shines due to its strong crit rate stat. This makes Lauma's skill hits pack a punch outside of pure Bloom teams, making it one of her top choices for raw damage. Finally, there's Mappa Mare, the other free-to-play option. It has the smallest elemental mastery subset among 4-star catalysts and provides an elemental damage bonus. But since EM is what really matters for Lauma, while damage bonus matters very little, it is the weakest performer of the group. Now, before mentioning team comps, it's time to mention what synergies Lauma has with our current cast of characters. Nilo is Lauma's best and basically only true synergy, thanks to insane mutual buffs. Nilo's bountiful cores count as Bloom reactions, which Lauma can amplify with her crit buffs, damage bonuses, and resistance shred. In return, Nilo pumps Lauma's elemental mastery, boosting her damage and team buffs. Nilo's AoE Dendro attacks trigger quickly and often too, helping burn through Lauma's stacks faster than most teams, making their combo even stronger. Plus, their elemental applications are nearly identical AoEs around the active character, ensuring constant Bloom triggers and freeing up team slots for other Hydro and Dendro units. They're just the perfect combo. With that done, let's move on to Lauma's team compositions. Lauma is a Dendro support that excels in Bloom-related teams. This interlaps with the main use of Nahida. So for this team section, I will split it into two different segments, where she is better than Nahida and where Nahida is better than her. First up, alongside Nilo, is where Lauma and Nahida can shine together. This is Lauma's natural home. Her damage buffs not only revive Nilo's power, but also boost her single target performance, fixing Nilo's previous massive weakness. Lauma is so crucial here, she can be considered even more essential than Nilo herself. Lauma's other top comps are Hyper Bloom and Urgent, where her massive Bloom damage buffs truly shine. She's so powerful in these teams, she can even single-handedly bring Sino back from the dead. Lauma also excels as a support for forward vape teams. Her nearly permanent 25% Hydro resistance shred from her skill and consistent Dendro application that keeps the Pyro aura alive are what make her such a powerful support unit. Plus, she can even hold Thrilling Tales or Wandering Evenstar to boost attack scaling teammates, which is a solid bonus. The last team style where Lauma outshines Nahida is Burning, mostly thanks to Kinich. Nahida offers only Dendro application, while Lauma brings a powerful 25% Dendro resistance shred, which gives her the edge. She is no Emily, but Lauma still gives Burning teams a solid boost, especially when Urgent is thrown into the mix. Now for teams where Nahida takes the lead. In melt comps, Lauma serves mainly as a Dendro applicator, which can help characters like Riesli handle AoE waves since he can't swap out. But Nahida usually wins here by providing the main DPS with a hefty elemental mastery buff that's hard to beat. Your Quicken teams favor Nahida too. While Lauma offers useful buffs, these buffs don't benefit this composition. Here, she also deals less damage and has a weaker application than Nahida too. That said, Lauma's lighter application can actually help when using Animo characters to swirl Electro. Other than that, overall, Nahida will outperform Lauma here. But for now, let's end off the video with Lauma's rating. Lauma's elemental mastery scaling is no joke. Her massive Lunar Bloom multipliers let her dish out serious damage for a unit that is meant to be a support. On top of that, her skill deals consistent off-field damage with no internal cooldown, enabling huge spread procs on top of everything else. This makes her damage usually rather high in most teams, which nets her a 4.5 out of 5. For application, Lauma applies 1 unit of Dendro every 2 seconds from off-field and in a large AoE that follows the active character, making her application both consistent and easy to use. This is pretty average right now though, which nets her the average 2.5 out of 5 for application. For offensive utility, Lauma brings tons of buffs. She provides a huge flat damage boost to Blooms, 25% Hydro and Dendro resistance shred, and team-wide elemental mastery buffs when using her best artifact set, making her a powerhouse support for reaction-based teams. All of these buffs have allowed her to single-handedly revive 2 characters from the grave, which in my opinion nets her a phenomenal 5 out of 5. As a battery, Lauma generates 1 Dendro particle every 4 seconds when her skill deals damage, with a 33% chance to generate a second particle each time. It's not the strongest battery in the game, but it's steady and helps keep her team running. This makes her particularly particularly good here since she herself will most likely not need it, getting her a 3 out of 5. For defensive utility, she has nothing, 0 out of 5. For flexibility and versatility, Lauma is a sub-DPS and offensive support with a highly adaptable kit. Her versatile buffs and consistent Dendro application let her slot into any Bloom-focused team, and she also shines in comps built around Hydro or Dendro damage. Surprisingly, she fits into more team types than you might expect, but not all, since Dendro can lock off certain reactions. So with all this in mind, a rather average 2.5 out of 5 for flexibility and versatility seems warranted here. Overall, Lauma is an incredibly powerful and versatile offensive support. She's so impactful that she will single-handedly revive Nilo and Cyno in terms of meta relevance, and her flexibility lets her thrive in Bloom comps, vaporized squads, and melt teams. Her kit delivers across the board high personal damage, consistent Dendro application, massive offensive utility, reliable battery potential, and wide team compatibility. All of this earns her a 4.5 out of 5 rating, making this nearly flawless unit the standout of the 6.0 patch. But should you pull? Ultimately, that's your call. But if you enjoy Bloom teams, she's absolutely worth it. Lauma brings a massive spike in team damage, especially for Cyno and Nilo, turning them into meta picks once again. The only real reason to skip is if you already have Nahida and plan to use either of these two for quicken or melt comps. In that case, Lauma won't add much, but if Bloom is your thing, Lauma is 100% worth your primo gems. But that's all I have to say about Lauma. Now tell me your thoughts. What do you think of her? What comps do you intend to use her in? Are you planning to use her as a pure support? Or are you looking to use her special charge attack for her to be played on field? Are there any constellations you are looking to go for? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. But with that, I will get out of your hair. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye.